Well, Latter-day Saints are trending on X once again as a controversial pick. Dare I say, very controversial pick for the political director of the College Republicans was just announced. Kai Schwemmer, he actually joins us on the channel today to talk about the backlash that he's received, not only for being just the chipper, jovial guy he is, but for being the unforgivable criminal of a Latter-day Saint that he is. As well, we give you a little update on what's happening in Iran since we did our episode on Monday. If you haven't seen that, I suggest you go check that out. And then we finish off talking about the one and only Greg Mattson from Quick Media being in Egypt almost all alone because the State Department erroneously put out an evacuation order for everyone in Egypt, thus making it so the people he was supposed to be taking on a Temple on the Nile tour were not able to come. All this and more, a lot of fun stuff. My name is Jackson Wayne Paul, and welcome to Latter-day Saints.
What power shall stay the heavens from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the Latter-day Saints?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Latter-day Saints. Another beautiful Friday. Congratulations for making it through an amazing week, okay? We're coming up on spring, but honestly, here in Utah, if you live in Utah, it's kind of been here the whole time. It's been like super warm, but to heat things up a little bit more, we got some fire in the studio, okay? As always, we got Brandon Russin.
Off camera,
Off
but
camera,
what's up,
gosh.
guys?
But then just flash the screen. Don't even show him yet. We have Kai Schwemmer, okay, in the studio. Kai, how you doing, bro?
Doing so good. Yeah, you know, it's a Funky Monkey Friday. I'm ready to get into everything. I'm so excited, and we're going to heat things up, spice things up. Some things, though, even in the season of spring, stay the same. They do not renew. Internet is still going crazy.
And even more so because of some developments, but we've got a lot of good topics to talk about. If this is your first time coming to Latter-day Saints, what we got going on is basically we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, unashamedly, unabashedly. We like taking a look at things happening around the world and specifically in the Latter-day Saint community and running our mouths on the internet. So I ask if you appreciate any of the content that we produce, then go ahead, hit the like, hit the subscribe as it gets it more exposure to people that are interested in this faith promoting content. Oh, and thank you, Brandon. Sometimes I cover the microphone and it muffles it. So God bless. Basically, Kai, since you came to the studio last, you've been busy, bro. You've been in DC. You've been at the State of the Union. You've been getting new positions in the College Republicans of America.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Dude, talk to us. So honestly, I opened up Twitter today and I saw that Kai Schwemmer was trending. Okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. What did you do, bro?
Yeah.
What's going on?
They said new appointment of, Kai Schwemmer as the political director of the College Republicans of America sparks backlash. It always puts it like that in the headline, right?
Yeah.
And this is the picture they used.
Did they really? That's so good.
No, they should have.
I love that. I actually like that photo. That was a photo I got when I was a Sterling Scholar in high school. That photo is so funny because if you show it to anybody, any hate comment they leave looks ridiculous. It's like, that's who you're hating on. You're hating the guy with the bob cut? Like, are we so serious? Yeah. So,
let's show it again.
Yeah.
Hey, but now let's see what he looks like.
This is
Okay,
now.
this announcement.
With the
all right.
Oh, wow.
Kai
Look at that
Schwemmer,
smile.
political
So
director.
jovial.
So first off, as a novice in the whole world you're in, okay? College Republicans of America, what does the political director do and how'd you get that gig?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because a lot of the times there's these titles and it's like, okay, well, what the heck are you even doing?
Mm-hmm.
The political director is actually a really cool position. It's a very cool role that would see me as the political director reaching out to all of the state federations. So the national organization has state federations below it, and those states have schools. Like here in Utah, we've got USU, UVU, U of U. And what I would do is coordinate with all of the directors of each of those federations, all the presidents, and I would see where we want to dispatch college Republicans in order to help campaign and win races across the country. So it's basically, saying we've got this manpower. Where do you guys think we should dispatch it, and then coordinating those efforts?
Now explain it to me like I'm 5.
Basically, who we want to win I get to say, go over there. It's like, work for that guy. That's basically what
Is
it is.
that good for you,
That
Brando?
helps me a lot.
Yes,
I
I know.
struggle with
You need a lot of help.
yes.
So thank you
Yes.
for asking that question.
Mhm.
Well, that's cool, dude. So is this like something that is voted upon? Is there like a committee, or how did you get this?
No, it's I was appointed by virtuous individuals, the chairman, and of course they've got an executive board who have to approve these decisions as well. But that's how I was brought into this, and it's really cool, right? Because the College Republicans of America, they have institutional support, right? These guys are already talking with CPAC. We already have, you know, federations in like I think almost half the states in the country. So we've already got this establishment. Now, me being brought in, what it's a cool opportunity to do is also to combine this social media and like influencer aspect to it to show up more publicly. A lot of the times the CRs, you know, they exist on a college campus, but then you kind of forget about them. What we want to do is make sure that we have a presence online as well as in the real world, as well as in electoral politics. That's kind of the goal.
Okay, that's epic, dude. Well, help me understand then the backlash aspect to it. Okay, go. If you want to click on the next link, Joel Berry. Who's Joel Berry? Because I saw he was getting fired up about this appointment.
Yeah, Joel Berry is actually, I think, the CEO or the owner of the Babylon Bee, which
I
is
love the Babylon Bee.
yeah, like
Oh, yes.
they're pretty funny, honestly.
Yeah.
But he has unfortunately posted a lot of cringe politically, and he
Well,
kind
maybe this is satire too, bro.
of we can hope, and it's funny, you know. He just sent this message out. He and James Lindsay, these are kind of the two guys that came out first to say this appointment is really bad. The Republicans are moving in a dark direction. And I'll be honest, most of it stems from the fact that I have openly been critical of U.S. support for Israel. That's what people have seen. You know, the Michael Knowles conversation that we've discussed on the show before. That is really what Joel Berry and what's his name, James Lindsay, are wary of. But people are right to point out that that does not at all reflect on my ability to help win elections by utilizing college Republicans as like foot soldiers and campaigners.
Yeah.
So it seems very weird to have an opposition to me being appointed to that position based solely on the fact that we disagree over the issue of Israel, because that's not even an issue that ought to be like a make or break concerning, you know, whether or not you're American or conservative or Republican for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, but that is the subject at hand in all things nowadays. And we're going to get into that a little bit more with some developments of what has happened since we've done our video. We did our video on Monday, kind of talking about the Iran situation, and we're going to look at some words from Mike Johnson. But Brando, if you scroll up here on this X post, so he says some stuff showing his displeasure. And then if you scroll down to Kai's response here, Kai says, I'm sorry people are being mean to you, Joel. You may think, oh, wait. Actually, scroll up a tiny bit more. Okay, well, didn't you reply like, hey, I don't think we've ever interfaced before, so I'd love to actually talk to you.
Yeah, if you'd like to click on that tweet, his original tweet, I don't know if you can. One of the other comments, one of the first comments is me saying, hey, Joel, like we've never interacted before. I'd love to be able to, you know, talk to you, have a conversation. And my reply to him got like 1.3 or 1.4 thousand likes. That's what it's at right now. That's the one, I think. Yeah, here it is.
Hey, Joel, given that I don't think we've ever interacted before, I'd love to discuss your concerns. Let me know if you're down.
Yeah. Just an open conversation. This is kind of what conservatism is about, right? You know, this free and open public discourse, debate. At least that's what I was told back in 2016. He didn't reply to that. And then he took some of like the most mean replies that he was getting, who I don't even know if they're followers of my own, but he took those replies and said, these are your average college Republicans.
Yeah, if you scroll down there, Brando.
Yeah. And that's what he starts to get really upset about.
Shut up, you lying Jew. Let's see, manufacturing. Oh, okay, that's not a great one to read.
But don't read that one.
You say, I'm sorry people are being mean to you, Joel. You may think I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a meanie. I disavow meanness.
True.
That's good.
Literally true. And this, you know, it sounds maybe like I'm just trying to get out of the hot seat, but I genuinely don't agree with cruelty, with meanness. And I think actually the scriptures are super clear with that. You know, that's not to say that you cannot reprove people. That is not to say that you cannot at times, you know, be harsh. But it is to say that you should take no pleasure in cruelty or just in being mean. And I love the epistle of James for that reason, right? He talks about the tongue. It's this wild, untamed beast that, it does so much damage. It spews poison. I think we have to be careful about what we say. And you'll see here in the replies, if you guys go out and you look at the comments, the majority of the people who are vouching for my, position, or that saying that Joel is incorrect in his assessment of my character, they're saying that because they've seen that my behavior over time has been consistent. Anybody who does know me knows that it's not like a nice guy act. I'm a chipper and jovial guy all the time.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And then he
Look at him.
he replies, I would expect nothing less from a member of the LDS Church, but you should remember that the left hides evil ideologies under a facade of niceness as well. You should remember that, Kai. You need training and mentorship in the exceptional nature of America's devout Anglo-Protestant roots and its uniquely Christian spin on Enlightenment ideals. You need to understand the Declaration as a creed for a civic religion the left has been working to destroy for over a century. You also need to learn more about Israel to understand why the lame boomers see it as such an essential Western ally. Finally, I would highly recommend reading the Bible.
Oh,
I had never considered that.
we don't do
can't-
that.
yeah.
Sure.
You can't understand, we're literally studying the Old Testament as we speak. You can't understand what makes our country great unless you understand the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek New Testament. I agree with that, okay?
Yeah.
And the Bible's great. But there's some assumptions in there that you, when yourself, have not read or studied the Bible, right? Naturally, because you're LDS. And you need to correct your ideas and be educated on the Anglo-Protestant roots of this country.
Yeah.
Because those are the only ones that truly make sense and allow for someone to have a coherent viewpoint on important issues.
Yeah, I'd never considered this idea of reading the Old and New Testament. Never considered that. When I open my gospel library, it's not as if that's the very first thing that shows up on the homepage of the gospel library. No, but you're very right. What's frustrating is that Joel is giving me that reply, but then he won't have a further conversation. And you're right to point out as well that in his reply, he's assumed a couple things. What does he say at the beginning? Oh, very typical of a Latter-day Saint to be really nice. It's almost as if he's assuming it's fake.
Yeah.
Then next, the left hides evil views in politics with a facade of niceness. Are you saying I'm hiding an evil politic through this facade of niceness?
Yeah.
No. But unfortunately, this is just another in a long list of things that Joel Berry has done that just make it a little bit cringe, very cringe takes, very down talking. This is why the right-wing movement is out of touch with young Republicans and conservatives. They just don't understand that we have kind of moved on from some of the old talking points, and that the way that we perceive Christianity and the influence it should have on politics is very different. Back in the day, I think people confused, and still to this day in Utah, people and politicians confuse mercy and justice. And especially Republicans became way too merciful, way too forgiving, and way too complacent. But Christ never asked us to be complacent. Christ never asked us to be weak. He actually said the opposite, that we should not be, lukewarm. We should be hot or cold. And right now, I think there's a lot of people who mistake Christ-like virtues for just simply being nice to their political opponents. And it's just not the case. So anyway, we are moving on. We're not reading Babylon Bee anymore. I, at least, am reading Deseret Pews. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
It's you've never seen it?
Is that the LDS version of Babylon Bee?
LDS Babylon Bee.
Okay.
Fantastic.
You need to put me onto that. 'Cause
It's
I haven't
huge.
heard of it.
It's huge.
Okay, well, cool. That's funny. Thank you for giving me more context behind the trending post of Kai Schwemmer being appointed as director of college Republicans and bringing backlash. But continue on.
Yeah.
Continue on, Kai.
Thank you, man.
All right, we're going to move into giving a little update on the Iran situation since we posted our analysis from just what happened over the weekend on Monday, okay? On Monday evening, we see Speaker of the House Mike Johnson come out and basically lay out what are the specific things that led up to the U.S. doing these preemptive strikes on Iran, which were deemed to be limited strikes, limited military operation. We now see that now they're trying to push for at least 100 days of military operations. And that it's not just Israel, US, and Iran anymore. We're going to go into all the other countries that are now involved in this very limited operation. But I saw this Monday evening, and there's some things that are very concerning. I want to start off, however, reminding you what Jesus Christ said, okay? Because I'm having to read this in my mind about every hour now, okay? In Matthew 24, verse 6 and 7. Okay, that's just a coincidence, all right? Don't freak out. It says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places." Couple things on that before we jump into this clip from Mike Johnson. Kai, we talked about this on the show before. I don't know specifically with you, but when we see things prophesied in Scripture, it doesn't mean we should be seeking out to be the ones to fulfill that prophecy. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's going to be wars and destruction and rumors of wars and evils happening. It's like, oh, these things must come to pass, just like Jesus said. So let's get a move on this thing.
Yeah. No, I'm in a class actually at BYU studying the writings of Isaiah. That's what you see all the time. There are so many prophecies in the early chapters of Isaiah concerning what is going to happen to Judah, concerning what is going to happen to Israel. And it's very clear that not only is there an element where the Lord will at times use the enemies of Israel as a tool, right? So just because something is being fulfilled does not mean that the people fulfilling it are righteous actors. But then there's also the second part, which is that there are these prophecies of things that are to come to pass that are going to come to pass likely because of the wickedness of people. And so this idea that we need to, bring about conditions for the end times because we just grow in wickedness, it's absolutely not what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And the prophets, unfortunately, certainly they prophesy. Certainly they tell us of things to come. But I think a lot of the times they are also, being, they're prophesying in this kind of lamentation where this is the state. What does Christ say? "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you murder the prophets." He's not happy about this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that was foretold, and they didn't listen. And they have absolutely no, claim to righteousness for having fulfilled those prophecies that, prophets like Isaiah had foretold.
Yeah. And so it's kind of concerning to me when I see a lot of clips of these politicians that are also evangelical Christians that talk about how, the third temple needs to be built, and that is not going to happen without incredible amounts of violence. If anything happens to the Dome of the Rock, not saying that it's not ever going to happen, but if we're seeking to go that route, it will unleash 2 million people on earth that will absolutely be enraged, and violence will ensue in all the land if that happens. Okay, when that, honestly, when that happens, and so to be the ones to seek that out, I don't know. So it troubles me when I hear these evangelical politicians talking about how, oh, this is what has been prophesied, and so let's get a move on this second coming thing. Let's get a move on this destruction. But anyways, back to Mike Johnson talking about what led up to the U.S. finally deciding to take action here, and these are some troubling words.
To me, the most critical point is that this was a defensive measure, a defensive operation. And why is that? I took some notes, and this is not classified, so I'll tell you what I think is important. Israel was determined to act in their own defense here, with or without American support. Why? Because Israel faced what they deemed to be an existential threat. Iran was building missiles at a radical and a rapid clip to the point where our allies in the region could not keep up. As you know, Iran has long vowed to take out Israel, wipe it off the map, and they have long seen that as a critical threat to their very existence. Because Israel was determined to act with or without the U.S., our commander-in-chief and the administration and the officials I just named had a very difficult decision to make. They had to evaluate the threats to the U.S., to our troops, to our installations, to our assets in the region and beyond. And they determined, because of the exquisite intelligence that we had, that if Israel fired upon Iran and took action against Iran to take out the missiles, then they would have immediately retaliated against U.S. personnel and assets. We have troops in harm's way, and we have many Americans in the region, and that was of great concern. If we had waited for all of those eventualities to take place, the consequences of inaction on our part could have been devastating. We don't know at what magnitude, but you can assume, because it is common sense, that if Iran had begun to fire all of their missile arsenal, short and mid-range missiles, at our personnel and our assets and our installations, we would have suffered staggering losses. And if we had waited to respond before acting first, then those losses would have been far greater than if we had done what we did.
Okay. So after watching that, I don't know how you can get any other interpretation from hearing the Speaker of the House's own mouth say that Israel felt that they were under an existential threat, because the same things that Bibi Netanyahu has been parroting for 30 years now, we've played the clip 3 times on the channel before, that they're weeks away from a nuclear bomb, they're weeks away from this, they're weeks away from that. And then apparently in June, when we obliterated their nuclear production, that we didn't actually do that. And so now Israel felt an existential threat, and then they were willing to act. He said they were willing to act with or without our support, and that they had exquisite intelligence that when Israel was going to attack without our permission, basically, they were going to go ahead and do it anyways, that Iran would then retaliate on not only Israeli forces, but the United States as well. Yeah. Okay. And so then that forced the hand of the United States to get involved in another war in the Middle East. Okay. I don't see how. And objectively, let me know your comments below, because is someone that is deemed to be our greatest ally, if they're just going to be like, you know what? And we heard many different times that J.D. Vance saying it's not in the U.S.'s interest to be in a war with Iran, and them saying there's no more regime change wars or pointless wars, and then having Israel force our hand, drag us into this conflict, like he literally just said we had to preemptively strike because we knew that our ally, Israel, was going to do it without us, and that then Iran would punch back at us. Kai,
yeah,
help me understand if I'm misunderstanding or missing the mark there.
I think that was a spot on explanation. And I'm so glad you touched on, because this is one of the things everybody's forgetting, the strikes we had last year, which, by the way, are a perfect, to use the religious symbolism, they're a type of what we just saw, which is that Israel preemptively, in the middle, by the way, of negotiations, attacked Iran. But they attacked Iran knowing that they were not going to be able to achieve their strategic goal, which is the destruction of the nuclear enrichment sites like at Fordo, like at Natanz. They knew that they were not going to be able to achieve that strategic goal. And so by attacking Iran, they basically force the United States into also joining the fight in the middle of negotiations. Mm-hmm. So what does that do? It hurts our ability to negotiate with Iran because we've attacked them in the middle of negotiations. Secondly, it ties us at the hip. Israel, does the pager attack, but we're the ones that have the bunker-busting bombs, which are needed to destroy the nuclear enrichment sites, and Israel knows that. Israel also knows that, like what was just said by the Speaker of the House, if they attack Iran, Iran is going to attack us because they see us as a sponsor for Israel. And
why would they do that? Maybe it's the $3.8 billion a year that we give to them in military contracts?
Exactly. Yeah. And all the while, where are our troops stationed? They're not stationed in Israel. We don't have a permanent base in Israel, actually. We have it in some of the surrounding countries. But this is another issue here, is that Israel, to some degree, certainly in the attack last year and certainly now, requires U.S. military support and intervention in order to achieve their goals. What is their goal? It is regional control. They feel that all of the Islamic countries around them are a threat, an existential threat, like was said there by the speaker, to their existence. Now, you're right. That's been said for 30 years. That can be said tomorrow of Turkey. And that's what they're already trying to do. They're trying to say, well, now that Iran's kind of getting out of the picture, who's the next threat? to Israel's existence, it's Turkey.
Because Turkey's a Islamic state as well, right?
This is the last kind of state that is seen as a bastion of kind of the more Islamic world in the region. And that's, you look at the geography here, this is the most northern part of your Middle East. This is getting into, European territory. It's going to get a lot crazier as the mission advances. But what's the United States going to say? If we keep responding by sending military aid every time that Israel says that they have an existential threat posed against them, then we are not going to have an excuse to not back them up if they do want to go to Turkey. Because the same argument's going to be used. And every single time that argument is made, the United States has given a blank check to Israel. And I think that's the problem. We need to be restraining them. We need to say, hey, look, we admit, because it is true, yeah, the Muslim world is not big fans of Israel. I don't think anybody denies that. We're not here sitting saying that we wish that Israel was taken over by Muslims. That is not at all the case we're making. The case we're making, though, is that Israel has been expanding its territory, and it seeks to. They want to expand into the West Bank. Donald Trump has said that is not part of a feasible future for the United States, but Israel will do so anyway. They'll hold a vote while J.D. Vance is in Israel and say that they're going to annex the West Bank. And so I think the United States needs to take a step back and say, look, guys, as long as you depend on us, we have to set some limits. And that even includes withdrawing some of the U.S. troops from that region to make it clear to Israel, in my opinion, that we are not going to go along with whatever they do, and they need to engage more responsibly in these attacks.
Yeah, and we went over kind of the different sides of this, one would say, D&D style 12-sided die here, okay, of this war. Because in our episode on Monday, we showed a lot of Iranians are celebrating because of this. The Ayatollah objectively was a bad dude.
Pretty bad dude.
I think it's not a good idea to run a country on a policy having a woman show her hair in public, she gets beat to death. Clearly, if I'm living under that type of regime, I'm going to be pumped when the, savior of the day, United States, comes in and starts bombing everyone. But here's the thing. Where does it end? Where does it end? Because initially it was U.S., Israel, Iran. Now, if we pull up that next link here on USA Today, scroll down a little bit. Scroll down. Oh, right there. Scroll down a little bit more. A little bit more. Okay, here we go. All right. So it says, what countries are involved in the war? More countries have quickly gotten involved with the war following the initial strikes on February 28th. Multiple areas in the Middle East, including Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, have been targets or intercepted attack drones, missiles, and bombers. Okay? We have over 14 more countries involved in this thing, and it's just getting started. I hope and I pray that this somehow, some way gets dissolved and peace is found in the Middle East within the week. I pray that happens. Now, what it's trending towards is something far more prolonged and far more destructive than just these limited strikes that we were told are happening in the beginning. And when we did our episode on Monday, we showed the dichotomy between the clips of Donald Trump saying, hey, we're going to come out, we're going to destroy the regime. Iranian people, this is your time. The hour of your freedom is at hand. When we kill them all, take over your government. Because this is your only opportunity. Yes, it will be yours to take, he says. And then we have the very next day, Pete Hegseth coming on saying, this is not a regime change war, but the regime did change and the world is better for it. And so then I'm like, okay, obviously this is a regime change effort here, okay? And then I saw a ton of people in the comments, Brando, if you want to pull up that screenshot of comment that I sent to you, of people saying things like this. There was probably 12 comments on our episode like this, Kai. They say, I think there's a misunderstanding. The USA has previously been the one who determined the new regime. That has gone disastrously. This time, the Iranian people are the ones who choose, not the United States government. We are not setting up a new regime. We are getting rid of the horrible one that threatened all countries, and the Iranian people now get to decide who they want leading their country. So Hegseth is correct. let me get this straight. So in the past, the U.S. would take out the regime, and then they would facilitate the implanting of a new regime.
Yeah.
Okay, so they'd have more control over it. This time, it's completely different and way better, Kai, because instead of having further involvement after and trying to control and make sure things are a calm, good situation, now, which obviously has gone disastrous in the past because it's probably just not a good idea to take this approach.
Yeah.
I don't know. But now the strategy is just kill the regime and the other 90 people in line for the leadership, and then assume that someone better, that a country of 90 million people are somehow going to immediately just bond together in cohesion and vote a new, righteous, good Western type leader in its place.
Yeah, I actually
sounds very idealistic.
It's super idealistic, and they're right to point out. You have the U.S. operations like Operation Condor, the CIA operation, right, in South America, to basically take out these communist or anti-democratic rulers and implant or supplant the rulers like we had in Argentina and Brazil and Chile, if I'm not mistaken, who are more Western aligned but ended up being very tyrannical. That approach really didn't work out historically, but I think here we find ourselves in a really tough spot. It seems clear that Trump is trying to adopt a Venezuela-type strategy. He believes that by killing the head of state who is uncooperative, there will be another individual who fills that vacuum, who is also a part of the current government or the current regime, but is more cooperative. You look at the vice president in Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. It seems to be the case that that is working to some degree. But whether the situation in Venezuela is going to change, it seems unlikely. The problem with this approach of simply, creating a vacuum is what you just mentioned. There are 90 million people in Iran. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, which is, a wing, this military wing of the regime, the Islamic regime, they have hundreds of thousands of troops. These are fighters with an ideological motive. They're not going to lay down their arms and just say, okay, well, we agree with democracy. These are people who fought for the Islamic regime. These are people who are ideologically founded. They're not simply driven by whichever way the wind blows. They will not surrender their weapons. They will fight for the regime that the United States is trying to replace. So what I think happens here is you are going to get a situation where no coherent government fills the vacuum, and there is more conflict between Iranian people, those who are more pro-democratic and those who are, more Islamist. And I think you end up creating a failed state. And the United States is then going to have to confront a question. And this is why I think right now, as we're seeing this single or 4-day operation, which was then a 4 weeks operation, which is now a 100-day operation, what you're going to see is an indefinite expansion of this conflict or operation, as they're calling it, until any kind of cohesive government forms. And I don't think that's likely to happen soon. And if it doesn't, the United States is going to look on the world stage like a disruptor who basically tore apart a country, subjected its people to tons of, violence because there's not going to be a cohesive governing body, and is going to, if we retreat, if we take a hands-off isolationist approach, we're going to leave a mess. But if we stay there, we're eventually going to have to put boots on the ground because you can't actually change a regime without it. There's never been a regime change without boots on the ground. So I think it's a very naive approach. And I don't know if we can appear like a moral and just character on the world stage if we leave behind a big mess in the Middle East.
Again, after just doing it, after being there for 25 years, we leave behind a massive mess, 13 dead service members in the pullout of Afghanistan, and then imported a bunch of people that were not vetted to have served alongside U.S. troops, okay? We had that one that came over during Operation Allies Welcome, that Afghan refugee, right, or guest, because I was on that operation reluctantly, okay? I was on that operation, and they came over, and then we have a guy that was facilitated to come to the United States, put a gun to 2 service members' heads in the streets of Washington, D.C., and end their lives. Okay, if we have some sort of other operation like that comes as a result of being involved in the Middle East in an irresponsible manner, it's gonna bug the beans out of me, bro. Like, here's the thing as well. And knowing that at least I'm tracking 6 service members have already died because of the operations and the strikes from Iran on U.S. military installations. 6 service members have died. And then I open up a White House Twitter and I see things like this. Brandon, it's going to cost a tiny bit, but I'm sure we can cut it out in post, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again.
There we go, Brando.
Here we go again.
All right, you can pause there. So then you just see the White House memeing war. And if I was a parent of one of those 6 service members that died because of this, and then I see the White House posting memes about how they're dropping bombs on all this stuff in the conflict. And then I see this as well. They post this as well.
Wake up, Daddy Sean. Welcome home, son. Strength and honor. Strength and honor. What will you do without freedom? Mavericks inbound.
You can't conceive of what I'm capable of.
Finishing this fight.
Yeah, I'm thinking on that.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
I am the danger. Time to find out.
Maximum effort.
Sure.
Here it comes.
Now, and this. Flawless victory.
Bro, who's their social media manager?
Like, I get they're trying to be all trendy and like Gen Z and engaging and entertaining and stuff like that, but literally, like, you're glorifying war right there. And it's like, if I'm a parent or a family member or a spouse of one of those 6 service members that have stopped breathing because Israel forced our hand to get involved in this war, and I see them making memes of Halo talking about giving justice the American way. It's like, imagine if you were related to one of these service members, how would you feel? And so it just, I don't know, dude, it makes me sick, because if I was put in a position, it would be tough.
Yeah.
It'd be tough, but.
Can I read some scriptures, Jackson?
Sure.
I think whenever we look at this stuff, Alma 48 comes to mind. This is Alma 48:23. It says, "Now they were sorry to take up arms against the Lamanites, because they did not delight in the shedding of blood. Yea, and this was not all. They were sorry to be the means of sending so many of their brethren out of this world into an eternal world, unprepared to meet their God." And this is, I think, exactly the approach you have to take. These edits, it becomes very easy to be fine with it, because you see this like thermal imaging and an explosion.
It's a video game, bro.
It's a video game.
It's a video game.
All of these references are from popular culture. They're from movies. They're from literally the Avengers. Yeah, this is also real life. We have to realize that there are families who are being destroyed. There is a missile that gets shot down in this conflict, or that is defective. And I think it was Iranian, was discovered, but it lands on a school. It kills school children. These conflicts kill so many people and harm so many people who never even wanted to be involved. And if we sit here and, make these based edits glorifying in the bloodshed, we are no better than the Nephites who turned wicked and were abandoned then by Mormon, who saw their wickedness in delighting in the shedding of blood. So I think it's just a very important moment to realize that no matter how cool an edit might make it look, do not allow propaganda to convince you that that death is something that we should ever be delighted in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let us know what you think in the comments, because it's just like memifying war like that and making it into a video game. Like, this is the American way. It's like,
Yeah.
I just get so queasy at watching those. But Brandon, what's the next link there? Is that
I
have
think
the
it's
Okay, now here's where we're at today. This is what Donald J. Trump says. He says, there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leader or leaders, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. MIGA. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And so again, let's just say even just 1%, which I assume it's higher than this. Let's just say, okay, it's 1% that aligned with the previous regime, okay? In a country of 90 million people, that's 900,000 people. Yeah. That's a lot of people, okay? And those people aren't just going to be like, fine, I guess we'll support this new leader, you know? It's like, it's just not realistic. And again, I hope and I pray somehow, some way, this gets solved and peace is brought within the week.
Yeah.
But I see this trending towards a much longer and prolonged disaster. Like, I don't know.
Can I ask Jackson, do you read that and see anything other than nation building? Like that is literally nation building.
Again, yes. Another thing that they're like, we're not going to be distracting with feckless wars, nation building, democracy spreading,
no politically correct wars.
It's like, what is that? What is that?
Literally, what is that? We're going to make it tremendous. We're going to make it an economic powerhouse. We're going to rebuild. Doesn't he say rebuild? Let me see that again. What does it say there? Do you mind reading that again, Jackson?
Yeah, he says, we will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, make it economically bigger and better, stronger than ever. So Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again.
Yeah, so rebuilding it. Yeah, so like changing the regime, making sure a new one is installed and safe, and then building it up to be economically bigger and better. Okay, yeah, so it's regime change and it's nation building. Okay, awesome. Love that. We're back in, 2002, 2003.
So again, if there's any other way to interpret that is legitimate, I'd love to hear your thoughts below, because I'm greatly troubled. And I'm striving my best to hold on what Jesus is saying. There's going to be wars and rumors of wars, but be not troubled. Doing my best. Doing my best. All right, moving on to this last thing real quick. Had a great conversation with our boy Greg Mattson from Quick Media. You tracking who Greg Mattson is?
Oh, yeah. I love Greg.
We love Greg, okay? Greg, if you didn't know, he does tours in Egypt, great tours. If you didn't know, the Restored Gospel, there's hints of it all along the Nile, and the Egyptians definitely had temple ceremonies that mirror a lot of times the same things that we do in our modern day LDS temples today. Epic stuff. Don't believe me? Well, I'll link in the description. We had a conversation on the Stick of Joseph with Greg talking about this. But anyways, I knew he was over in Egypt, and then I see this tweet. If you go to the next link over, Brando, from the State Department saying security updates for Americans in the Middle East. This is on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. It says, depart now via commercial means due to serious safety risks. And then it says Bahrain, Egypt, and then a whole list of other countries, okay? But then when I saw Egypt there, I was like thinking of Greg. I'm like, yo, what's going on in Egypt? I know like near the Sinai area, obviously Egypt is very closely bordered with Israel, and there's probably some stuff going on there that you should avoid. But over down in Cairo, ooh. And then, so I called him up and I'm like, dude, what's going on? And he's like, well, actually, let's just watch this video because he kind of explains it here a little bit. But he's in Cairo right now as we speak.
Well, this has been interesting. I am here in Maadi, which is a relatively nice part of Cairo. And I've been looking for an address. I think the numbers got juxtaposed. I was meeting with someone. I tried juxtaposing them and walking to that other address, knocking on a few doors, but I've got no phone number for the person I'm meeting up with. So to no avail here on, I think, an important little meeting. So I am heading back to my hotel on the other side of the Nile. And this week, the tourists did not come because of the wrongly announced message from the State Department on you should leave Egypt. That's not true. In fact, they updated it, got it right. So we're going to take some time and get some video and do some research down in Luxor. I'm excited to bring you this too, because these are places that I haven't been before.
So basically, like I said, that tweet goes out from the State Department, get out of Egypt right now, depart immediately, right? And then I'm like, what the heck? So I call Greg, and just like he explained there, that it was basically an error that was made, because soon after they posted that, they then posted this other threat level thing showing people, it says March 3rd update, security updates for Americans in the Middle East. Level 4, do not travel. Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. The classics, okay? The OGs. The OGs do not travel to.
They own the list.
Yes. Level 3, reconsider travel. Bahrain, Israel, West Bank, Gaza, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. And then it says level 2, exercise increased caution, which to my understanding on the State Department website, Egypt's kind of always been hovering around a level 2, at least for the past 2 years. Okay. So then he has a whole tour group that he's supposed to be taking out, and then they don't get on their planes to go because the State Department erroneously put out this thing, evacuate Egypt. And so he's telling me on the phone, he's like, yeah, we actually only had one couple that they, for some reason, came a couple days early to do some other sightseeing. And so now our group of like something, it was supposed to be like 20 or 30 people, maybe less, I'm not sure. But now this couple is just getting like a private tour from Greg, and I think Bruce Porter's out there.
Yeah, he's the third wheel
of Egypt. And so anyways, live it up, that couple. I guess
the State Department does not want you to find out about the way that the ancient Egyptians practiced temple rites. They do not want you to know.
Dude, is this much bigger than I'm making it out to be?
It's much bigger. They knew.
They knew that Greg Mattson was going to be hosting a tour, Temple on the Nile. And they were trying to thwart his efforts.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. They're interested in war. They're not interested in the finer things. You know, they're not interested in these pearls of great price.
Exactly. I hope you can tell when we're being sarcastic and when we're not. But anyways, shout out to you, Greg Mattson. Hopefully all goes well out in Egypt. And we pray that the list of countries involved in this stops at 14 or wherever we're at. Okay. And that it diminishes over the coming days and weeks. But who knows? Kai, as always, thanks for being on the show, bro.
Hey, thank you, Jackson, so much for having me on. Very, very much yapping, but I'm excited. And, you know, the mate, it keeps me energized.
The juice is flowing.
Very excited.
Kai Schwemmer is just ramping up for his generational run, okay? And I'm thinking it's going to last a good decade or 4 decades. Generational run. So be on the lookout for Kai Schwemmer, the new political director of the College Republicans of America. So anyways, thank you for stopping in. As always, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless you.